Welcome everyone to our presentation today titled End of Summer PMP Portfolio Updates, presented by Cambium Networks. We're joined today by Matt Mangriotis and Bruce Collins. Welcome, gentlemen, and thank you for putting together today's material. We'll not only cover all 450 and ePMP product updates, but also take a look at real customer deployment examples, and the proof is always in the data. So Matt Mangriotis is the Senior Director, Product Lead Manager for our Product Line Manager for PMP 450 products, and we'll cover the 450 30-30-30 program, as well as give us some long-awaited updates on their 450V and 450MV product lines. So we're really excited to hear more about when to expect those in the market and more details about the products and what else there is to come. And Bruce Collins joining us today is the Senior Director Product Line Manager for ePMP products, and he will cover the ePMP 4500 5 gig and 4600 6 gig series updates for us today. Both the 4500 and 4600 series have gained instant popularity in the industry with their impressive throughput capacity and large amount of subscribers that they can handle. So we're also really looking forward to hearing updates on what to expect from these ePMP lines in the future as well. We have a lot of ground to cover today, and luckily we have two industry experts on our panel to go over all the information. So please submit any questions that come up in the chat window. We will answer them after the presentation, time permitting. And we will also be uploading a recording of today's webinar on our YouTube channel and share it across social media. So more details on that I'll share towards the end there. So let's get this started. Gentlemen, take it away.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Good to be here with you today. Again, my name's Matt Mangriotis. I'm going to start out today and talk a little bit about Cambium. I think most folks on the line know who Cambium is, but I do want to point out that we like to think of our product portfolio as being part of your network, part of that one network that you're trying to operate and manage. That being said, all the different products can be managed, monitored, software upgraded. Everything you need is in one management tool called CN Maestro. And CN Maestro and CN Maestro X make it easy to manage that one network, whether it's the fiber piece, whether it's switching, Wi-Fi, long-range backhaul, point-to-point links, or what we're talking about today, the point-to-multipoint stuff. We have solutions in just about every flavor, every combination, and we'll talk today about how you can keep this investment in this one network economical, operating smoothly, and with very little downtime, and keeping those customers happy. So in terms of operating a network or running a network, really what does your network need? What do you guys need as operators? I think we got a pretty good handle on the needs of our customers. You're trying to provide more bandwidth to more customers. You need higher bandwidth packages to be able to compete against things like fiber and other solutions that are out there that the bandwidth keeps exceeding what it was the previous year. So everybody's needing more bandwidth as time goes on, of course, and the evolution of the product set is how we get there. We also want to keep those customers happy, right? Reducing churn, reducing folks leaving your network. That's really the key to keeping your revenue stream going. And quality of experience and providing the service that you've advertised is really what's key to that. So quality of experience, providing that customer delight by providing that consistent speed and latency. There's a lot of factors, of course, in performance, but speed and latency are two of the major ones. We also have planning tools, not necessarily the equipment related directly, but the tools that help install, plan the install, network planning, making sure you're marketing to the right folks. We have those tools available for you in the terms of CN Heat, CN Archer, a lot of the ancillary tools that go along with not just the radio itself, but the way that you can get that out to the right customers at the right time with little failure and little waste of time and money. And then 6 gigahertz. We'll spend a lot of time today talking about 6 gigahertz and what that does for you. It's imminent. It's on its way. Things have been moving in a great direction. We're fooling around now with the public testing of the AFCs. That's ongoing. It started last week and it's going to continue for several more weeks. We'll talk about that today and then again at Wispapalooza if you guys happen to be there. So look forward to that. 6 gigahertz is coming and we'll talk about what that means to you. And then how do you keep those investments working for you? Make your investments work better. Do more with what you already have, right? So if I have a 450 network, let's say you've invested in 450 or ePMP, how do we do things better with that equipment? We're going to be able, with 450, to add more customers, reach further distances, reduce churn, stay competitive, increase bandwidth. How do we do this? We're calling this the 30-30-30 program. This consists of 3 separate things that we're doing with the products. The first is sector capacity improvement. And we've released now our 22.1. And then prior to that, we released 22.0.2, which includes these 2 features listed at the bottom: multiple groups per frame and another downlink slot. We optimized the downlink to add another data slot. And what this does together is add sector capacity. The 450 Medusa product in the busy hour is well proven through many networks that the improvements with these 2 features have shown 30+% capacity improvement in that network. You can see that on the forum, the community forums. There's a lot of folks that are saying, hey, we measured before and after. During the busy hour, we're seeing huge amounts of improvement in the sector capacity. So that's done. The first 30 sector capacity with Medusa is in the field. The next one we're looking at is the 450B connectorized version. And we've been testing 2-foot and 3-foot parabolic dishes to add to that connectorized 450B. These represent a huge amount of gain. Now, would you put a 3-foot dish on a customer premise? Probably not. But there are certain scenarios where larger antennas make a huge difference and allow you to connect points that otherwise may not be able to be connected. We expected to have this earlier in the portfolio, but it's taking a little longer because of regulatory testing and approval. So before the end of the year, we still expect to get this into the portfolio. And then the third 30, which is perhaps the most important of these, is the subscriber throughput, the individual subscriber throughput. We developed a Canopy MAC layer way back when to provide this deterministic scheduler and the MAC architecture the way it has been for a long time. But now that we're approaching wider and wider channels and longer frame times, we're discovering that that MAC layer needs to be re-architected a little bit to take better advantage of queuing up data to keep that pipe full. And so that's what we're doing right now. We're in the middle of this, and the release is in Q1 for releasing this, what we're calling a deeper virtual circuit queue, which will enable you to get more throughput to a given subscriber using those wider channels. This is especially important when you're trying to do bigger bandwidth packages to your end customers. So just to summarize, first 30 is about sector capacity. That's in the works. It's already out there and released. The second 30 is to enhance range with that connectorized unit. And the third 30 is subscriber capacity with what we're calling the deeper virtual circuit queue. And that's coming in Q1. So all those things, all these 30-30 are things that are being implemented on the current generation of hardware that's already out in your networks and will just show improvements. It's a way to enhance that system you're already using for your business and effectively provide 100 megabit plans to those subscribers, 100 by 20. We've shown that when we have these features implemented, we can do this fairly repeatedly and fairly easily. And then with that enhanced range, you can gain additional hard to reach customers. So what are we doing after that? That's what everyone wants to know. Let's talk about what 6 gigahertz might bring to the party. So today we have the 5 gigahertz band from 5.1 to 5.8.5. The FCC released this 45 megahertz up here between 5.850 and 5.895 on a special temporary authority basis. I know a lot of customers already have the ability to use that. That was granted during COVID and has stayed around as you keep renewing that STA and you can keep using it. Hopefully the FCC will make that permanent. I think that's been put on the back burner in light of what's coming in 6 gigahertz. But soon you will get 6 gigahertz available to you. And that comes in the form of 2 different bands, the Uni 5 and Uni 7, which can be used outdoor at standard power. That's 36 dBm or 4 watts EIRP. Same power levels that you can use in 5 gigahertz on Uni 1 and Uni 3, 5.1 and 5.7. Unlike 5.7, there's no exception for the SM. So all devices, whether it's access point or subscriber module, must adhere to this 36 dBm EIRP. And further, there's a little bit of a power density limit. So as you get wider channels, you got to ratchet that down slightly to stay within the power density limits. But we'll talk about that again. And if there's any questions, again, feel free to ask questions in the question box. Uni 6 and 8, which are in between here, will be restricted to low power, so they're not available for use outdoor. But using 6 gigahertz requires the use of an AFC, and the AFC is there to protect incumbent license holders in 6 gigahertz. That's, again, the AFC is under test right now. The FCC has opened up testing as of last week, and there's a kind of a 75-day window for testing and monitoring, and then the FCC will analyze the data, and then in theory will open up the band for commercial use. Now that timeline looks like it's going to be in the December timeline when that's going to open up. It seems to be rolling forward, and there doesn't seem to be any issues with that as yet. Of course, that remains to be seen as the testing goes on, but things are moving forward. So what are we doing? Well, first we have ePMP 4500 and then ePMP 4600, two new products from ePMP, one covering the 5 gigahertz band, one covering the 6 gigahertz band. And Bruce is going to talk a lot about those in just a minute. I will cover the 450V, which is covering both bands. That product is a combined SKU, one SKU that covers from 5.1 all the way to 7.1 and covers all the uni bands that are available for outdoor. So what is the 450V? Well, it's the next generation of 450 hardware. It will be backward compatible with all versions of 450 in 5 gigahertz. It'll also be forward compatible with everything we release in 5 or 6 gigahertz for 450. So we say backward and forward compatible. Again, it's operating from 5 through 6 gigahertz, so 5 to 7 in one SKU. It's really there and designed to support migration and expansion into 6 gigahertz. So if you're using a 450 network today, this enables you to maintain connection to that 5 gigahertz system that you have out there and add 6 gigahertz to that system because it is a 4x4 access point. This guy on the right here is an integrated sector antenna, again a 90-degree sector, fully integrated, but it's a 4x4, which means I can do, it actually has two carriers, and I can do it in dual sector mode or with carrier aggregation, or both at the same time, in fact. So I can, when we launch the product, it'll support 40 megahertz channels and then be upgradable to 2x80 and then 2x100 megahertz channels. So what that means is I can do a channel or a carrier in 5 gigahertz and a carrier in 6 gigahertz. And then at the other end, if I have a 450V 4x4 subscriber module, which is this guy, he can then aggregate those two channels together. While I have other 450Bs and prior generation 450s that can keep operating on the 5 gigahertz channel that they were operating in before, provided the AP is servicing that channel. So I can mix and match, I can upgrade very easily. And I'll go through some of the scenarios where that makes sense to do. Later on in the year, 2024, we will also have a subscriber 2x2 subscriber module, which will be lower cost, but single carrier. So that guy can do either a one channel in 5 gigahertz or one channel in 6 gigahertz. But because he can get wider channels, he can support much more data bandwidth. So in words or in a chart, again, 5 and 6 gigahertz support in a single SKU, backward compatibility with existing platform and forward compatibility to what's coming next, ultra wideband support up to 2x100 on this hardware. It will support dual sector mode, and those carriers can operate independently, either in 5 or 6. You can put both of them in 5, both of them in 6. It's a very flexible system. We can aggregate those two carriers, and they can have different bandwidths. In the future, we'll also be able to do transmit and receive diversity, where we can do different frequencies on the transmit and receive, or they can have different channel bandwidths. So those are future-looking kind of platform capabilities. The architecture is the same as 450, very, very simple. Connect your AP to your network. That wirelessly connects to the subscriber module, which goes through the house, can connect to our switches and things, and any of the CN Pilot equipment, and deliver service to a customer premise. Very, very easy, simple. Then what? Well, we have Medusa, Generation 2 Medusa. We're calling that the 450MV. That's coming out about a year after launch of the 450V, but it will represent kind of the next step in innovation. 24 by 24, multi-user MIMO, increase in capacity. We're expecting 4 to 5 gigabits of data through this thing. Again, 5 and 6 in one radio. Interference mitigation techniques applied, as well as things like N=1 reuse. So this is the big honking leading edge innovation once more. So 450V, let's focus on that for a minute. Where does it make sense to deploy a 450V radio? If you have an existing 450i or even the original 450AP operating in 5 gigahertz, of course, it's kind of a no-brainer to simply replace that radio with a 450V. You can provision the first carrier in that same band, same channel bandwidth as you are operating your current radio in, and then provision the other carrier in the 6 gigahertz as wide as you can handle, as wide as the radio can do at the time. Effectively, this doubles the sector capacity right out of the gate, and you can swap your higher users with the 4x4 subscribers to allow them to have wider channels and therefore do more throughput. You can upgrade customers as needed, but in a kind of a graceful manner. So you don't have to upgrade all of the subscribers in that sector at once, only the guys that are requesting higher bandwidth packages at the time that it's needed. In Q1, when we get additional carriers or wider channel support, we can then add more capacity to that sector. Further, if you have a sector that's using Medusa, there are instances that we've seen many times out in the field where customers are using Medusa, but for whatever reason, and it could be that the subscriber distribution is not adequate, or there's a few guys using most of the data and the others are hardly using any data. There's many different reasons why, but there are scenarios where that Medusa is not really being optimally used, meaning the multiplexing gain that you're getting out of it is less than you would expect, or it's just not being taxed. You're just not at the capacity that it can be used at. In those cases, replacing that Medusa with the 450V might yield better results because you can use wider channels, you can use 6 gigahertz. There's a lot of ways that this could improve. And then you can take that Medusa down and use it somewhere else in your network more effectively. So you're not spending additional money, but you're repurposing that Medusa. And typically, you can even counteract or show additional capacity by swapping out the highest users of the 5 gigahertz, moving them to the 6 gigahertz band that 450V supports. And then you can free up more resources in 5 gigahertz to do what those need to do. So that's another scenario where it makes a lot of sense to deploy 450V, even if you have Medusa out there. And I'll show this in some numbers. This is a theoretical example where we're at 30 megahertz channel with 450M. My multiplexing gain is about 1.5, which is, not great. It could go, much higher when we see things like 4.5, when we have a really nice distribution of customers and a lot of customers on the network. In this case, I'm showing about a sector capacity of 186. But when I replace it with 450V at 30 megahertz and 5 gigahertz and 80 megahertz and 6 gigahertz, now I have 124 in the 5 gigahertz range. I have 255 to play with in my 80 megahertz of 6 gigahertz range. So adding those together, I'm now showing an improvement of almost 3x. I have 380 megabits to mess around with or to distribute to my subscribers. So a huge improvement there versus what it is. Let's take a look at that scenario one more time, but using real data. This is an example from someone who's actually operating. They have 40 SMs in a Medusa sector, again at 30 megahertz channel. Their gain is about 1.66, so they're getting about 130 megabits of actual data through that using multi-user MIMO. We replaced that with a 450V. Move the top 6 subscribers, because they're generating about 50 megs of throughput, move them to 6 gigahertz, and then replace them with the 450V SMs that can aggregate those channels. And now on my remaining guys are only using about 79, and then I have 80 megahertz of spectrum with a capacity of 150. So my total is now 230 versus that 130. So I've just gained 100 megabits of capacity in that sector by swapping a 450V for that 450M that was there. So it's a huge improvement again, and this is a real world scenario with real data. So again, another option is actually to overlay, and that seems obvious, but you can take advantage of 6 gigahertz and configure all the carriers in 6 gigahertz, and then also swap those guys that are really using the higher level of data, and just keep seeing more and more capacity gains by doing that. So if you can afford to overlay that 450M with the 450V and utilize that 450V in 6 gigahertz, even better. So again, just to compare the throughput on the SM side, I get 2x the throughput by combining those carriers. And I say nearly because I think I mentioned before the limitations on the power spectral density in 6 gigahertz. It's a little bit more stringent than it is in 5. So it's nearly twice as much. If I expanded the 6 gigahertz only, I can utilize all those carriers to effectively double the throughput compared to a 450B. And then because I can use wider channels in 6 gigahertz, I can maintain that 40 in 5 gigahertz and keep using those existing subscribers, but then add 80 megahertz of 6 gigahertz to the picture to effectively triple it. So at this point, that's all I had on 450, and I'm going to turn it over to Bruce to talk about ePMP 4000. Bruce, take it away.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thanks, Matt, and good stuff. I'm going to talk about ePMP. So this is the another point-to-multipoint platform that Cambium offers, and many of you may be aware of ePMP as well. But again, I'll start with kind of a quick summary. Really, when we talk about ePMP, we're looking at an economical solution. You can see there are 3 million radios deployed globally with this platform. So it is a broadly deployed platform over, I think, about 8 years. So this is a mature platform. And what we're going to talk about today is actually the 4th generation of ePMP. The hallmarks of ePMP are really high performance, and that gets even better with the 4000 series. We've always been able to do scalability, which incorporates that TDD synchronization, beamforming, and again, I'll show you some examples of how with the 4th generation that gets better as well. And then, of course, the overall TCO is outstanding with ePMP. When you compare it to some of the other competition out there, so you'll be able to get access to support directly from ISP supplies or directly from Cambium, and we offer a 3-year warranty, the same as with the PMP 450 platform. So let's go ahead, Matt. So in the new generation, as Matt pointed out on the spectrum chart, there's 2 different platforms, 2 different access points, and 2 different sets of subscriber modules. One covers the 5 gigahertz spectrum. You'll see that in the green highlights what have really ramped up the capabilities with this new generation. So up to 3 gigabits per sector in the 5 gigahertz with an 8x8 MIMO. We have an integrated antenna on there. And then separately, we have a 6 gigahertz platform, which goes up to 4 gigabits per second. And the reason we're able to even go higher on capacity there is we introduce both 4K QAM on one of the subscriber modules, as well as 160 megahertz channel option, because as Matt mentioned, there's 850 megahertz of new spectrum available. So many of our field trials are being run at 160 meg channels using experimental licenses, but you can also narrow things up a bit and go 80 or 40 meg channels as well. So go ahead. So whether you're new to ePMP or not, here's what's the same. So I'll start there on the right. It is the same air interface, and that's important because we're going to offer backwards compatibility with this in the 5 gigahertz space.
So if you are currently deploying the ePMP 3000 with Force 300 subscriber modules, you'll be able to upgrade to the 4500 and then mix and match Force 300 subscriber modules with Force 4525 subscriber modules. We support point-to-point and point-to-multipoint. Point-to-point applications are quite commonly deployed with ePMP for serving enterprises or small businesses. All the software tools are consistent, and I'll cover those at the very end of the presentation, but CN Maestro, Link Planner, CN Heat, all those things are available and have the same look and feel as does the GUI on ePMP. So if you're used to ePMP and you open up a 4000 series, you're going to see everything the same. All you're going to see is some higher modulations to select from, some more channels to select from on 6 gig, and some more channel bandwidths as well. Same 3-year warranty. And then what's new is I talked about the capacity. Matt talked about AFC and the new spectrum in 6 gigahertz. There's also a number of new technologies that are brought to the game with 4000 series. OFDMA, so being able to subdivide up the frame and the air interface to handle small packets and small like TCP ACKs that are coming back in a more efficient way. We support uplink MU-MIMO. So historically with the 3000, we supported downlink MU-MIMO. In this case, it will also do uplink MU-MIMO. And then you see the higher modulation. So all in all, with the uplink OFDMA, the uplink MU-MIMO, we see this really fitting that need or that growth in uplink capacity requirements as more people work from home and study from home. So that is really going to open up capacity in the uplink direction as well. So Jonathan mentioned at the top that there's been a lot of great feedback on the 4600 and the 4500, and we've been in the field with this product since last October, so almost coming up on a year, with different customers running these with FCC experimental licenses. So I think we're up to about 70 different service providers and network operators that are deploying with an experimental license. And they've all been anxiously awaiting the FCC approval, which looks to be happening here in December. A couple examples here. You can see the kind of speeds and capacities that you're able to achieve. These 3 that I call out here, site 10, 7, and 9, are all about a half mile, more than a gigabit per second downlink and 850 meg in the uplink. So significant capacities. You can imagine the service packages and offerings that you can make as you carve up and take advantage of all that additional capacity. The aggregate on this one, with I think this had 10 subscriber modules, we were seeing an aggregate of about 2.4 gig because you had different modulations and different distances from the tower. But you've got, like, suffice it to say, you've got a lot of capacity in an economical package here. You can go to the next one, Matt. We'll show some longer range links. This one, site 5 there is 1.5 miles, and you're still getting over a gig. And then the site 2 is 2 miles out. You're still getting 930 megs. So the cell coverage or range of these 4600s are going to be similar to what you got with 5 gig. It is a little bit lower EIRP, as Matt mentioned. The 36 dBm is the max EIRP in both directions. So it's a little bit different than traditional 5.8, but you're still going to see significant ability to deliver capacity over these longer distances. And not to leave 5 gigahertz out, I'll close on the 6 gig saying that product is available. As soon as the FCC gives the green light, you'll be able to buy it from our friends at ISP Supplies and start deploying it. So it's available and released. We are also shipping the 5 gigahertz, the 4500 series. So that is FCC approved already because it's using 5 gigahertz. And that is also available to deploy. And again, similar feedback. We're getting strong results in high-end capacity and scalability on that platform. What we are also excited about is the near line of sight and non-line of sight performance. You get with the more subcarriers with this platform, you get the OFDMA support. So this is an example of a customer straight off of WISP Talk that is talking about getting very good performance in a site or location that they really struggled with in the past. So 4500 is available, and lots of people are starting to take advantage of that. I'll talk a little bit on the roadmap about what the software looks like on the 4500, but go ahead, Matt. Just to get a lay of the land of the hardware first, and then we'll get into the software. The 4000 series started about 2 years ago with the products on the left there, that Force 400C and Force 425. These are point-to-point links that can deliver more than a gigabit per second in a 80 meg channel. So these are really nice, low-cost point-to-point links, and the feedback on these has also been outstanding. And the number of use cases and deployments just keeps expanding quarter over quarter with this platform. As I move to multi-point on the right, all the way to the right, you'll see two different access points. The 4500, that's the big 8x8 sort of mainstay of 4500. So you put that up on the tower, 4 sectors of 90 degrees. It's got an integrated 90-degree 8x8 sector antenna, and you can get that highest level of capacity. If you're looking at small cells, or maybe you just want to light up a subdivision somewhere, we've got that 4500L, which is the little brother running at 2x2 MIMO. Still gets you about a gigabit per second, and it's really a nice solution there. What was I going to say? Oh, and then the two different subscriber, in the 4500 series, your subscriber module option is the 4525. So that is the integrated 25 dBi dish. It's got a gigabit interface, and so you can deliver those packages. And we will have some additional form factors of SMs coming down the road in 2024. But initially, the demand and feedback from customers is that this 25 dBi dish giving you the best modulation, the best gain is the way to go. And similarly, on the 6 gigahertz, this is the 4600 series. So on the right, you'll see the 2 access points. You've got the 4600, that's connectorized. We offer a 4x4 sector antenna. If you're familiar with the ePMP 3000, it's pretty much the exact same form factor of the radio and the antenna to get to the 4600. And we also offer a 4600L, which if you're familiar with the 3000L in the ePMP 3000 line, it's the same form factor. But this is, again, a 4x4 and then the little brother 2x2. Now on the subscribers, you've got 2 options. There's the 4600C, that's a connectorized SM. That gives you that top line capacity up to 4 gigabits per second because it's got the SFP Plus port, it supports 4K QAM, and the 160 megahertz channels. So it's a great point-to-point solution, and also a great solution if you're looking to deliver lots of capacity to some business customers, for example. Great fiber alternative. And then the 4625 we think is going to be the more bread and butter for residential home access. That is the significant difference there is it's got an integrated dish, so it's a little bit, and it's also lower cost. But you get in 1K QAM. So that's kind of the key differences to keep in mind. It also does not have the SFP Plus port. The other thing I'll point out is that there was, with the final rulings from the FCC, we now know that you have to have an external GPS receiver on every subscriber module in the network at 6 gigahertz. So you will require this external GPS receiver, and it does need to be the one certified by the manufacturer with the radio. So it'll have to be the Cambium model. Those are also available today, and so you can start to plan around that as well. Okay. On the software side, I didn't want to leave out ePMP 3000. We still have many customers deploying 3000, ePMP 3000 and the Force 300 subscriber modules, and that's not going away. We anticipate that to have a long life ahead of it, which is really because it serves a great purpose at delivering capacity in those very rural areas where you might not have the density that a 4500 requires, and you're really looking at what's the lowest cost way to get that coverage. And so that, for that matter, we're still doing software development. So we just recently released 4.7 firmware. It has a feature called Smart QoS in there that I think is pretty interesting. So let's go to the next slide, and I'll cover that briefly. Smart QoS is an integrated. It's a feature on the access point, and it inspects all the packets going through the radio, and it gives you two things. It gives you a pictorial view of the types of applications that are being served by that access point. So I can see how much of my data is due to gaming or file transfers, live streaming. And then you can assign either individual specific applications, or you can assign groups of applications to the QoS levels that ePMP supports. So I can put um, the, say, file transfers at low priority, and then keep the live streaming at high priority. So it's a way to, rather than just using code points or DSCP, you can use sort of at a logical level, what are the applications being used. So this Smart QoS feature is available in both the 3000 and the 4000 series. And then on the quick word on the 4000 series software. So today, if you deploy either a 4600 or a 4500, it is operating in what we call WLR mode, which is wireless long range mode. And what we'll be adding, and that works great for those applications you saw. What we are working on and we'll be adding here in the fourth quarter is TDD synchronization. So WLR mode works great for long distances, and it's similar to what you might have heard in the past called ePTP mode. So it's very dynamic. It gives you lots of very efficient use of the air interface. But TDD sync is what it will use to scale up those networks. So once you go above about 30 subscribers per sector, then this TDD sync comes into play, and now I can go all the way up to 120 plus subscribers in a sector. We have TDD sync working in the lab today. We have a large setup in our chamber here in Rolling Meadows outside of Chicago with 100 subscribers off of a sector. And we're able to synchronize all of that, and we're doing the final touches on that. I expect it to go into open beta here around the end of the month, and then we would get to full commercial release around the end of the year. And then that same end of year release will pull in that official AFC support. So that's kind of the summary on ePMP. I'm going to spend just the last couple of minutes here on some of the other tools and capabilities that apply across all of Cambium's products, and then we'll kind of wrap up with some Q&A. So on the software tools that we offer as Cambium, one of the most exciting ones where we're really seeing a lot of growth is this quality of experience, or QoE. And with QoE, what this is, it's a software solution. It can sit on a virtual machine in your network, and it sits kind of in between your peering point to the internet and the access network. And it sits there in between, and it optimizes the TCP flows. It does rate limiting and traffic shaping. It gives you all kinds of statistics on what's happening. We can do things like detect speed tests and bursting to rate plans, as well as congestion detection, which is really important as you try to manage the latency of the network. And Matt, if you go to the next slide, I think these testimonials are really where you see the value, because ultimately this is a product geared towards reducing, as you can see on the right, reducing customer complaints, reducing churn, and then by improving that experience. And then the other thing that we're seeing as a sort of a indirect benefit is that oftentimes service providers can defer capital investment in upgrading their backhaul down the road a bit, because they're able to use their infrastructure more efficiently just by dropping in a software solution. So it really kind of pays for itself in that aspect as well. So again, this is really easy to set up. There's not a lot of configuration required. If you haven't tried QoE, we can get you going with a trial system. And you, like I said, because it's software and you can load it on a virtual machine, we can get you set up and running on that. And oftentimes people just don't even play with it a lot. They just put it in the network, turn it on, and then they assess the performance, say after 30 days, and see how much it's improved their operational metrics. Okay, go ahead. to the next. CN Maestro, of course, if you're familiar with Cambium, I'm sure you've heard CN Maestro. This is our single pane of glass management system. So all of the products that we talked about today are managed by CN Maestro, plus all the ones that Matt showed on the One Network slide. Those are all managed in a single pane. You can do all your configuration, software updates. There's APIs that can connect back to your existing billing systems or customer care ticketing systems. So very full featured and broad set of features and capabilities across both the fixed wireless side as well as the enterprise Wi-Fi and switching side. And then on the planning side, there's some news here as well. Again, if you're familiar with Cambium, Link Planner has been around since the start and is really a great proven tool in giving you the, I like to say it gives you, for a given link, it'll tell you what's the range I can achieve, what's the availability I can achieve, and what's the capacity I can achieve. And I can start to play with all the variables that adjust those, and I can get do all those what if scenarios to figure out exactly what I want to do before I go deploy it, and it's very precise and accurate in what it predicts. This has now moved to the cloud for the most part. Most features are now available in Link Planner Cloud, so you don't have to run this on your laptop or iOS anymore. You can run it up in the on a browser, and some of the benefits of that are you're going to be able to start sharing data with your CN Maestro results, so you'll be able to see what's happening with the plan versus what's in the actual. And then CN Heat is the other planning tool. If you have LiDAR data available in your area, and we can tell you that if you reach out to Cambium, LiDAR data and CN Heat give you a very precise view of where do I have line of sight, near line of sight, and what kind of propagation I can expect. So depending on if I'm using a CBRS band or a 5 gig or now a 6 gig, even 60 gig, it will give you a very precise view. You can see in the picture on the lower right there all the trees and foliage. And that one of the main benefits here is a higher accuracy pre-qualification for an install, and then a higher success rate on those installs. So I don't have to do multiple truck rolls. I don't have to do pre-qual runs out to those residences. I can pre-qual them remotely using this tool and then have a very high degree of success in making that install happen. So definitely check out CN Heat, and we'll have all of these tools on display at WISPAPalooza as well. Go ahead, Matt. I think that might be about it. It is.
Excellent.
So, Jonathan, back over to you.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Matt and Bruce, for covering all that info. We did have quite a few questions rolling during the presentation. Let's cover as many as we can with the time we have left. We did receive a good variety of both 450 and ePMP questions, so we can jump back and forth between Matt and Bruce and get them answered. So let's start with a 450 question. One of them is the 30-30-30 program automatic, or do we need to sign up for the optimization?
Nope, no sign up. Those are just as the software gets released with the features that complement that program, they are implemented. So there's no sign up required.
Excellent. Another question is, since the 450V gear covers both 5 gig and 6 gig, will one AP handle all 5 gig and 6 gig SMs in the field, or do they need to be two separate APs?
Yeah, that's the big difference between the 450 platform and the ePMP is that the 450V covers both frequencies, both bands in one SKU. So you can, and because it's 4x4, it's actually carrier aggregated and can do 2 channels. One of those channels can be in 5 gigahertz, covering the existing 5 gigahertz SMs, and the other can be in 6 gigahertz, allowing you to either do carrier aggregation at that side or just 6 gigahertz with those new SMs, the 450V SMs.
That's a huge selling feature right there. Thank you. Another question. Are there any plans of releasing an ePMP access point like the 450V that covers both 5 and 6 gig?
Yeah, so I'll take that one. So today we're rolling out the 4th generation, which is 5 gigahertz is a separate platform from 6 gigahertz. We kind of chose to keep those separate in order to keep the cost down. So
Mhm.
if you are deploying if you're new to 6 gigahertz, which everybody is, you can deploy a 6 gigahertz network and you can keep the cost really low. And then on 5 gigahertz, you have that migration path with backwards compatibility. So if you want to talk to your existing ePMP subscriber modules but get the new performance, you can upgrade. Now in the future, down the road, I would say a couple years away, there may be some ability to converge that, and those of you that are into the technology can probably anticipate that as Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi 8 technologies evolve, we would be able to take advantage of some of those capabilities. But for now, it should be very clear that it's a 5 gigahertz platform at 4500 and a 6 gigahertz platform at 4600.
Great, thank you. Are the 450 MVAPs powered the same as the standard 450M radio?
No, the 450 MV will be powered DC only, very similar to how the 3 gigahertz 450M is powered. It's going to be a pretty higher. It's going to be higher power consumption because of the 24 by 24 capability. It's a much bigger device, not bigger in
All right.
physically, but bigger power
Right.
consumption.
All right. And speaking of the 365 450M, any plans to release a 450V or 450MV in 365?
Not yet. We are debating and discussing how, what kind of evolution we see in the 3 gigahertz band. Right now, the software improvements, let me be very clear, the software improvements that are coming with the 30-30-30 program, the sector capacity as well as the subscriber module capacity increases are applicable to the 3 gigahertz band as well. So those benefits will be seen in 3 gigahertz, and that's actually really critical to achieving those 100 megabit plans as we talked about in 3 gigahertz. So that stuff does apply, and then there will be some news, in the future about what we're doing with the 3 gigahertz band.
Excellent, thank you. Let's see here. Will the 30-30-30 program also apply to ePMP 4500 and 4600 series products? And if so, will it also improve previous ePMP 3000 gear in the field?
So the 30-30-30 is specific to the 450 platform.
Okay.
But I will kind of just reemphasize that on the 3000 series, we just had release 4.7, and it had some things like flexible frame and some improvements in efficiency. So I think you'll still see a continuing evolution of that. And then as far as antennas, we see a nice ecosystem of horns and other antennas that people are deploying with both the connectorized subscriber modules with the 4600C, for example, and then also the connectorized access points. And one of the things I didn't really touch on, but the later this year, you'll see a 4500C. It was on the slide, I just didn't talk about it. You'll see a 4500C, which is a connectorized 8x8 access point. And we also see that as a interesting set of applications that can be derived from that kind of capability. So keep an eye out for that as well, and some of the possibilities that we can do with some of our ecosystem partners there as well. Look for
Awesome.
a prototype for that. We'll have a prototype of that in the booth at Wispapalooza.
Excellent. Looking forward to seeing it and seeing what kind of results it could pull. Let's see, a couple more questions here. One of them, would the 30-30-30 program eliminate the need for a QoE device or improve the QoE experience?
It really doesn't have a lot to do with QoE. QoE, as we kind of talked about it, is a separate application slash module from Cambium Networks, and that applies to all the equipment. And it shows you can see huge improvement in overall network quality of experience by your users, whether you're using ePMP or 450. The 30-30-30 program is specific to the operation of the radio system, the 450 radio system. So QoE is separate from that.
Good deal. Thank you. This last question I'm actually going to save for myself. Is there a more cost-effective way of getting a 6 gig license without having to hire an attorney or have to go the DIY route? And actually, there is a way. ISP Supplies, we have been helping customers apply for their license. We do have a standalone a la carte 6 gig FCC license offering that we have, as well as some bundles that we have with the ePMP 4600 series, where if you buy a certain amount of APs and SMs, we include the 6 gig license coordination and application fee as part of the bundle. So for more information on that, please reach out to us and we'll be able to go over all the details. I wish we can keep on going, but unfortunately we have run out of time. So if anyone has any further questions, please forward them to sales@ispsupplies.com and we'll get them answered for you. Also, you can reach out to our sales team for more information at 855-WISP-PRO, which is 855-947-7776, or email us at the sales@ispsupplies.com email address. We'll be able to help you out. We'll also be posting today's webinar on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ISP Supplies and also shared on social media on facebook.com/ISP Supplies. So please make sure to subscribe and follow us. And I'd like to especially thank everyone who joined us today. Special thank you to Matt and Bruce and the rest of the Cambium Networks team for their continuous support and groundbreaking product development always. Thank you very much for stopping in and take care, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan.